maybe prove us wrong. Will be or they did prove us wrong. Will be the block that we put on the pyramid next time. I'm trying to.
That was smooth right there. Damn.
I've had a couple all-timers here.
Yo, what's up? It's Chris Simms. It's Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Ahmed is here, and that was one of his worst transitions, movements to a break that he has ever had in his professional life. You've never really flubbed like that. I've never seen you really flub anywhere, honestly. I've been on live TV with Football Night in America.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of events together. You very rarely stumble over words. You very rarely don't do it exactly right going to break. But when you come and hang out with trash like me, you lower your level. See, I'm lowering your level. See, this is what happens in competition, right? When the coach is like, we can't go down to their level. See, I bring you down here. You become a derelict. You become an idiot like me, and you can't do your job anymore.
Remember that old commercial with that kid in bed and he was doing drugs or whatever, and his dad found out, and he came in. Do you remember this one? He goes in, where'd you learn how to do this? And he goes, I learned it by watching you.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Parents who use drugs have kids who use drugs. So it's hosts who flub lines have other hosts who flub lines.
Exactly right.
That was fun to listen to because it just kept getting worse and worse.
There was no
usually,
fixing.
And I do stumble a lot and whatever, we all do. But usually I can get it back on the rails. And that one, there was no getting it back on the rails. I don't even know where I was going.
No, you couldn't get it on the rails. And then, I interject and make it worse and make fun of you. And then it all goes off the rails from there.
Yeah.
But we got a good one today.
We
right?
do?
We do. We got a little more of the quarterback rankings, the pyramid. Have we actually officially come up with a name to our own thing yet? I don't think we have.
We should actually go back to the YouTube comments because the homies did have a couple of good ones here.
I know, and we liked them, but we as a group never really made a final call on what the hell we wanted to call this thing. So we're going to continue just to build our pyramid or our pyramid.
We'll call it the quarterback pyramid right now. We'll go back and look at those. We're getting a little senioritis right now. Let's just be honest about that. It's just like summertime, draft is over. It's just like we got to be motivated to go back into those YouTube comments.
Get exhausted this time of the year. This is the time of the year where I probably don't answer texts nearly as much as I should. I have friends that are texting me. Like, I get to a point here again where love my job, do all of that, no doubt about it. But yeah, it's a time where there's not as much day-to-day stuff to deal with.
Right.
So you feel like, okay, maybe I can check out. The summer's right around the corner. There's all of that. It's a long year for both of us. It was a long year for me, especially this year, because it was the college football aspect made the football season a little bit more of a grind to where, I get to this time of the year where I'm like, oh, my God, I cannot wait to the break next week. I really can't. Because what wears on me is just getting up early, having to be on your A game, to start the day and doing that. And the other thing is just like, let's just take 2 nights ago. Frank Ragnow retires, right? And now it's like, wait, who's going to play center and all that? So there I am sitting on my couch at 8:45 at night going, wait, what's going to happen here? Wait, let me get my notes out on some of these guys they drafted. Let me look at that. Wait, let me go back and watch the guy Tate Rutledge a little bit who might replace Frank Ragnow so I could talk about it clearly the next morning and have real thoughts, right? That makes sense. So that's where it can get exhausting too, but I shouldn't be complaining. We're still talking football. It's still a lot of fun.
Are the Lions going to be okay with that? Now that you brought that up.
Yeah, they will be okay. I think they knew there was a possibility this is happening.
Yeah.
I think they've been slowly but surely drafting for the future a little bit. Your second-year player out of Boston College, Mahogany, right? He played really well at the end of the year. They got to be happy with that, right? This kid, Rutledge, I do think is made to play center, and he's NFL ready right now. That's the good thing about drafting people from Georgia, especially the interior linemen. They've done a lot of NFL-type stuff. And, and then even with your right guard, Glasgow, they drafted somebody that's slipping my mind right now in the 5th round that I feel like is also a look to replace Kyle Frazier. Exactly right. Miles Frazier, They're looking for him to probably be the replacement for Glasgow as they go forward. They have an eye for offensive line, I think, that group. I would trust them.
And as you say, teams draft for need a little bit more than they
let on. Exactly
right. I think they did. And maybe this is a precursor to the quarterback we'll talk about they are protecting a little bit later in the podcast. As we have now entered 15 through 11. We're just on the cusp of the top 10. We'll get into that next week. But before we get into that, we had breaking news at the end of last pod. If you stuck all the way to the end, it was the Madden cover is out.
Yeah.
It was Saquon Barkley doing a hurdle over a defender. And you sniffed out a couple of things immediately on this. First of all, we're like, wait, is that the real play? And you go, nah, it's not the real play. Look, that's a generic jersey. And then with Florio, you go, I don't know that that's all natural, that leap by Saquon.
And then I saw a few things on, I saw this right away, right? And I saw, I saw this on Pro Football Talk, and was just like, wow, he's got to be connected to wires there, right? Like, I know Saquon's one of the freakiest athletes I've ever seen, but I don't think he can levitate once he jumps 6 feet up in the air and then hang there for a second, all right? I've been around a few guys that can hang there for a second, but not quite to that extent. So, yeah, it had all the look of a stage picture when I saw the cover, and that's usually how Madden has done it the last few years. It's been quite some time since they've used live action shots of the players. I feel like we're about 12 years in now of them doing this, but very cool.
How cool is that? I mean, we're in the age of like computers do everything, right? CGI, but that's probably the guy, right? That is the man that is like going up and down with Saquon.
That is.
To make
He's
sure
on
that
the
he
Saquon ride.
away.
Look at him. He's trying to pull him up and down. He's going for a ride there, but very cool. One of the most iconic plays of last year that really was, a 12-yard gain, right? Which is kind of funny. But you don't see people jump over people backwards in the NFL. He's a freak. I'd love to see him dunk and do all that. I don't know. Did you see that video of him like last week throwing the alley-oop to Cooper DeJean and then Cooper DeJean hammering it home?
No.
Yeah, they were like practicing in the gym. I don't know what they were doing.
Cooper can jump.
Cooper can really jump. And you could tell the whole team was like, holy crap, this kid can jump. And he's white. This is amazing. This doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Seriously, you go up another level there. But there are some guys in the NFL. I could tell you some stories back in the day. First time I played basketball, Dwight Smith. You might remember him, 2 interceptions in the Super Bowl, pick 6, wore number 26 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were big into like going to play basketball in the offseason. Big. Like we would play serious basketball like 3 days a week. Go to the Y, play like a bunch of pickup games to the point where we would tell the Buccaneers team trainer and be like, hey, we don't want to run as hard today, right? And we were in the trust tree.
Yeah.
We're going to go play a lot of basketball later today. He said, okay, if we just lift and maybe don't do the whole run workout. And they were like, okay. They had seen enough. They had known enough that we go out and play, and we were always in shape when we had to do stuff anyways.
Right.
So they trusted us. But the point was a guy like Saquon, who truly, like by normal human terms, can like levitate when they get to the top.
Yeah.
Dwight Smith was one of those guys. I played with a few guys that could do that where the first time you see them jump, you almost, like I did with Patrick Mahomes the first time I saw him throw, like I wiped my eyes. I was like, is it me or did he jump and like kind of hang there for a second? Like, did he jump and then swat at the ball twice and then go down? Like, that's what it looked like, right? And that's what it reminded me of. So just taking you down memory lane. But, yeah, those are always kind of cool side stories about the NFL because there are some freaky jumpers and athletes, as you know.
Petey feels bad because they actually put the name of the man who he did jump over in real life, Darian Jones from the Jaguars. They put his name on the back of that jersey. That was like
right. They try to play it like it's real, but it's not.
Yeah,
right. And that guy's like, damn, I mean, why didn't you pay me to be there? That's copyright infringement.
He's on the cover of Madden, too.
But it's not him. He's getting
body double.
He's getting trolled by Madden and social media and everybody. It's going to be his claim to fame.
Pete also says at BC he played pickup basketball with, who is this, Matthias Kiwanuka?
Defensive end from the Giants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. He said he swore he was good enough to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think Pete was on his team. Did you win, Pete? Yeah, he dunked on all of his
He dunked on all of Pete's friends. Yes, of course he did, because he's like, this is the easiest post game I've ever had to play in my life. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I think there's a number of guys, tight ends, defensive ends in the NFL. I think those are the two positions I would look at to where they could be like power forward-ish, right? You got some receivers who certainly could be like shooting guards, scoring guards, doing that type of stuff. Quarterbacks and receivers who could be point guards and all of that, right? There's definitely some of that. But, yeah, there's some guys that definitely can jump with the best of them. There's some guys in the NFL that can jump with the best jumpers in the NBA. Now, they might not be 6'7" and have long arms and all that, but some of the greatest jumpers I was ever around in any capacity were, some of my NFL football friends who might have only been 5'11", 6'1", but you go, they're doing things I watch on the NBA dunk contest, right? And they're doing it that way. That just speaks to how explosive NFL athletes can be.
The shooting ability now is the separator. That really is becoming more and more of a separator now. It's like, can you shoot the three-point shot with some of these guys?
If you can't even play anymore if you can't
do
NBA,
that. Not even the G League. All right, let's get to the pyramid now. The Simms quarterback count up this year as we build the pyramid up. We will do a top 10, number by number.
We're going to do a true top 10.
That'll start Monday, but these are the top 15. We've made it into the top 15.
That's right.
So let's show you where we have gotten to at this point. We added a layer last time. We build it block by block. Kristen back there and the whole team. Good job with Emily and Gabby, Wyatt, Sydney. MJ is back there, too. The whole team here. No one's got senioritis because we're still going. We block by block there. We added the ready to launch, is this it, and need more info. So some guys kind of on the top 20-ish.
Yeah, this is a tough group. We say this every year. This 20 through 11, 22 through 11 is very nitpicky, right? There's risers, fallers. They are close together. It can be a little bit more year to year maybe than some of the other ones there that just bump my thoughts up a little bit. But yeah, there's a little bit of everything in this group, and we're going to hit on a little bit of everything today with some of these guys we're talking about.
All right,
here.
Before we show the animation and the great graphics and the video, this tier is called Want to Touch the Hiney. I feel like we need to describe it before we look at the people. Yes.
We did. So I was joking around. Anybody ever seen Billy Madison, right? They're talking about Veronica Vaughn, the hot teacher, right? Yeah. And they talk about so hot, want to touch the hiney, right? And that's Chris Farley. So I was joking around, and we were trying to figure this out, and I was going, so close, want to touch the hiney. And what I mean by that is they're so close, like, to getting everything they want, right? They are really close, and that's the tier we're going to get into. Things of two guys here specifically that have a lot of talent, they have game-changing abilities, right? But there's just a flaw or two that still needs to be fixed, or we just got to get a little bit better at, and then we might be touching the hiney and be in the top 10 or the top 8 or whatever here. But these are the type of guys here where there's still room for improvement. There's still potential. There's big-time aspects of their game, and they were two of the tougher evaluations, too, because there were some things that worked against them last year that didn't necessarily always help itself to great film. And I got to try to take that stuff into account as we move into the future here. But, yes, we are in the Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, want to touch the hiney part of the tier here.
So we'll get to Jordan Love, but let's start with Kyler Murray here. They were 8-9 last year, and a lot of respects, that was an overachievement from a team that we did not think was going to be in the playoff conversation, and they were quite late into the year. He was nearly 70% in his completion percentage, 230 yards a game. He was about here last year in your rankings. Now, back in 2021, he was number 7, so he was top 10. He has dropped out there, but you still see some potential room to still, I mean, this is not early for Kyler Murray anymore. We're not talking potential for him anymore. But he's still one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the game.
Definitely is. One of the most dynamic, still one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the game, still one of the guys that you can watch a game on a given basis or any play and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just pulled that off or made that play or made that throw. And it's not just about running game either. It's about throwing the football too. So yeah, things are on the up. They are. And to your point too, right? Like, we're at a point of a career where you don't want to say, like, yeah, he's still growing or whatever and all of that, but there's still parts of his game he can get better at, and there's parts of his game that I saw him get better at. So that's the good thing there. Now, take into account, too, with Kyler Murray, not necessarily in love with that offense and what they do. You heard me say that before we started the show. It doesn't always just make it like, oh, wow, this is quarterback-friendly. People are open. It's not the most creative pass offense I've seen in football. On top of that, too, I would say, the talent around him is not wowing to where people are separating all over the field, okay? Marvin Harrison's very good, but we know separation was a part of the thing. The year was good last year, but maybe a hair underwhelming. Trey McBride is clearly his best target, his best guy, his best mismatch. But Murray can do it all. And Murray can play the position true to form in the pocket, make right reads. Oh, I'm getting pressure. I got to throw the ball early with anticipation and drop it in the bucket, do something like that. This is he can, of course, make highlight plays with his movement and his running. And I don't even think that is a total 100% coming off the injury, right? I think you'll see him get back to what he was before that ACL injury this year. I think you'll see him really regain that explosive ability. But here's like one area, if you want to talk about, well, I don't know, potential. Can he actually get better and do stuff like that? He has become a better decision maker. he has become better going through reads in the pocket. But the biggest thing there, and they're kind of playing to what I'm about to say, one of my issues with him was in the pocket play. Plays small, leaves the pocket too early, looks at the rush too quickly, and then tries to look downfield when things get a little hairy. When you go back watch Kyler Murray last year, you can tell there was a concerted effort to go, I'm going to hang in the pocket, right? Nobody's open at first, but I'm not just going to get out and run around and close myself off to the sideline and do anything. He really did a phenomenal job for especially a smaller guy who we know it's not easy to do that, of hanging in there, hopping in there. Like you could see in certain games he was like, I want to go. And it's like he heard his coach's voice in his head like, hey, hang in the pocket. This is where a lot of the big plays happen. And then he'd like regain himself and hop around. And you could tell he was looking downfield and not looking at the pass rush. I liked that aspect, and he needed to do that last year because a lot of times people weren't open on the original part of the play. So he had to wait and do something from there. Within that, I also think, and maybe because of the knee, it forced him to be like that a little bit more. I think it made him play, like I said a second ago, the position a little more true to form of like, hey, I'm getting blitzed. I can't just always run away from it. I got to have an answer of where I'm going to throw it, where I'm going to fade and get rid of the ball, right? I saw things like that, and the arm talent's still phenomenal. It really is. His biggest thing, of course, is still size-related, and the fact that there's going to be some plays and some throws over the middle of the field that he just doesn't trust. He doesn't trust what he's seeing. He's not sure if he's seeing it right because he is smaller, and there's probably a guard and a big defensive tackle in his way. So you can watch every game and see 2 or 3 plays where you go, throw that to that guy over the middle. Yeah. But you can also go, well, he's 5'10". I don't know if he can really see it all the way, so he doesn't do it. That would be the biggest flaw in his game, but I still think there's room to grow. They certainly can help him out a little bit more with their offense and hopefully some more weapons here as we go forward. Yeah. But it's still, like you started off, he's still dangerous. He still has a wow ability. And I feel like he's getting better at playing the position more true to form, which could be scary for NFC West opponents.
Yeah, a few things. I mean, offense, they didn't add a whole lot on offense. So defense, I know. That could help them if they have a better defense, right? It puts less pressure on the offense. And Kyler here, what he said this offseason, quote, I don't want to get too scheme-based, but I do feel like I have to run more next year. So that's something that he wants to get back, maybe it over to.
Yeah, I think that's still the point there, too. And I think that's what made him hang in the pocket.
Yeah, injury and some of that last year, too. Right. Jonathan Gannon has been effusive in his praise of him this offseason. I think he said he has not missed a workout all offseason. And then 2 weeks ago at a charity softball game, he said, quote, I think he's going to blow it out of the water this year. I think he's going to have his best year that he's had as a pro. We have some of his OTA stuff. So it does. I mean, here's a guy who is still 27 years old. We're talking about Bo Nix, second year. He's, 25?
That's what we can't forget. That's why I'm saying, that's where it's weird when you were like, well, it's I don't know, his potential, blah, blah, blah. It seems like you can't say that. But it's like, no, he's kind of still young.
Yeah.
He really is. And, I think Jonathan Gannon's, saying the right things there. I think, Kyler Murray, for the first time in his life, probably the first time in his life, got to a point here the last 2 years. He's like, wait, I can't just go out there and make it happen whenever I want, right? I think anywhere he's ever been, whatever it was, baseball or football, he's just like, if I show up on the field, I'll make it happen. Don't worry. I can play Call of Duty and be fine and still go out there and tear everybody up on the defensive side of the ball, right? That became a thing. I think you're seeing a maturing of a quarterback who's realizing, okay, my athletic ability is special, but there's more to that in this league. Like look at Lamar Jackson. His athletic ability is special. He realized he needed to do some different things to go to the next level. Josh Allen, whoever, right? So you just can't get it done just thinking, I'm the man, I'll get it done. And I think that's what you're hearing from Jonathan Gannon. You're starting to see the gym rat. And I always know he loved the sport. I've always heard that. I know that. He loves ball. But it's just loving ball makes sometimes you have to do things you don't love. Well, it means I got to get there a little earlier and just grind a little bit more than I'd like to. Let me stay here a little later. Let me go out with these guys. Even though I'd like to go home and sit on the couch and I'm tired, let me go out with the offensive line and be one of the guys, right? I think those are the little things he's learning here. And I do think Arizona is going to take the next step. They exceeded expectations, like you said. They continue to make that team better. And I think they'll be a player in the NFC this year. I'm not going to predict playoffs, but I think they'll be right in that combo late in the year.
I mean, Kyler's such a fun player to watch and dynamic player, and I think at times early in his career, it's just like he's going to win not one MVP but multiple. At this point, though, when you look at him and where he's at, I mean, what % chance do you think he has at one point in his career to win an MVP or win a Super Bowl? That's obviously that one's team dependent, but those upper echelon of the quarterback, it seems like at times he has the talent.
I still put him in the ability to get there one day. Yeah. I'm not giving up on that. Yeah. I'm not. I still like you said, if the right team is around him and the formula and all that, yes, he can put up eye-popping numbers and they can win games. He is that type of talent that would be MVP worthy of a guy. I do. I don't think it's not over yet here with this guy by any stretch of the imagination. Right, and of course the size and some of those things. Okay, it's their job to find plays and find ways and work with that, because there's other things he brings to the table that other guys can't do that he does do. So you can't just always go, well, he's small, he doesn't play in the pocket well, and do all of that too. Yeah, you say that, and then he makes a 360 turn and runs around the corner and makes some unbelievable throw, and you're like, oh, thank God he got out of the pocket and made a play with that crazy athletic ability there, right? So you can't have both all the time. I think he continues to go on an upward trend of where we saw last year, along with the Arizona Cardinals.
It will be tough, though, to win an MVP, win a Super Bowl. But you know what? I do think he can win a gold medal in the Summer Olympics in L.A. playing flag. I don't know why I keep putting him out there.
Well,
I don't even know if he wants to do that.
He's made for that.
He's made for that.
Right.
I mean,
running around, slinging it, doing that.
It could be his legacy. It's like, he never won an MVP or Super Bowl. You know what? He won 2 gold medals in 2028 and 2032 or whatever.
I think what he would say to that is, shut up, Ahmed. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl.
Can we at least see if he would want to do that? I don't know. I don't even know if he's been asked out there.
I'm sure he's going to get that question here soon.
I would ask that. Yeah. Let's get him on here, and I want to ask him that question. All right, so 27, going to be 28. Now you have a quarterback who was 26, going to be 27 November 2nd, a day before my birthday and your dad's birthday there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jordan Love for the Green Bay Packers. They were 9-6 last year, and there was some conversation. It's been recently here that maybe he took a step back last year.
Yeah.
Debate on that.
Right. I think that's a fair thing to say. But I think there's context to that, and we always say context matters here on the Chris Simms Unbuttoned podcast. Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah, it wasn't as good last year. There's still big-time, game-changing type talent here with Jordan Love. He still is he puts fear in defensive coordinators because he's so aggressive and he's got such an easy way of throwing the ball down the field and making explosive plays that it's scary playing him. He's also a guy that I've even heard defensive coaches saying this, like, he's scary because he does look for the big play a lot. He might have a chance to take like a 5-yard gain, but he'll sit there and go, no, I'm about to see the 25, 30-yarder coming open, so I'm going to wait for it. This is the coverage that's there. He's great at that, and that scares people that way. So there is some scary things about him. But as far as like what you're saying, he took a step back. There's definitely. And that's why he's maybe took a step back in my rankings. I'm just, it's only 2 years of playing. He's still very young as far as the NFL is concerned. He dealt with injuries from week 1 on, right? And I think that really derailed him. And that's what makes him tough here in this whole process too, because I don't know if I got to see the true Jordan Love really the whole year. He got a big contract. He wanted to get back on the field. I think he rushed himself back on the field a few times way too quickly. Within that, not getting to practice during the week, right? That didn't help him. He's a young guy again. He needs those reps. I think he saw Malik Willis come in and do some good things. And he's like, oh, damn, that looked too good. I don't like that. I'd like to get his ass back on the bench. Let me get back out there, right? So I think all those things played into a little bit of a step back there. Definitely wasn't as sharp decision-making. The biggest thing is just wasn't as sharp throwing the football. That's the biggest thing. We talked about it a lot during the season last year, right? Even on completions, there was plays where you just go, he completed that. But if he threw it on time and perfect to Jaden Reed, he would have caught that and turned up the sideline and ran for another 20. Instead, Jaden Reed had to turn around and maybe stumble and catch it like backpedaling, right? Because the ball was a little off target. Or he was a hair late to see it. It was always stuff like that with Jordan Love. Right? But nonetheless, the ability to hang in the pocket, he moves better than people realize when he is healthy, and his aggressive nature and his big-time arm are still something I look at and admire and go, it's as far as down the field throwing and doing stuff like that, he's up there in the NFL. He's higher than where we got him ranked in that department. The problem with him is he's got to be surgical, precision, right? Play with a little better timing. I talked to Matt LaFleur. His feet hopping in the same spot sometimes, way too long, right? At times, almost like we've talked about with some other young quarterbacks, being greedy, where you're just like, wait, it's open. There's 7 yards. Take it. You can't always I'm going to hang here a little longer. Got into some bad habits throwing the ball mechanically. And again, this is something even before the injury that came up a little too much, but I feel like without the practice time and drilling in some reps the right way to do it, it became more of a thing last year. The hopping in place and just throwing off the back foot when I go, there's nobody within 10 feet of you. Right? Like, stand in there, drive off your back leg, and drive the ball, and you're going to throw the ball with better accuracy and pace than you are if you're just sitting on your back leg, flicking it all the time. And he did that a number of times, too many times, to where balls sailed, they were off target, and there was no need to do it. And I think those are things he needs to polish up a little bit.
Well, he did have 8.3% of his passes last season dropped. That was the third highest rate in the NFL.
It was
but
insane.
But
it was also, exactly.
That can be a quarterback stat.
There's context. Well. Exactly. Yeah. That's what this goes into what I was saying. Like, yeah, there's throws where you go, oh, that was complete, but you just go, damn, he made that as hard as possible, right? Or it's like, yeah, the guy dropped it. He had two hands on it, but he went down to his knees and slid on the grass to do it. And it's like, okay, yeah, he gets a drop. But in the quarterback room, like Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews,
yeah.
Right. Both of them get a negative. Yeah, Mark Andrews should have caught it. Lamar should have thrown it better. And I think there was a lot of that too. So, yeah, there was a little bit of everything there.
So you mentioned that you talked to Matt LaFleur. It was 3 weeks ago right here on Unbuttoned. You asked him, how can you get the best version of Jordan Love? And this is what he told you.
Him understanding the intent of why we're calling every play. And that's what a lot of our time in the offseason is dedicated to, is like, hey, why are we calling this? What are we looking for? What happens if we don't get the premier looks? Where are we going to go with the ball? I mean, there was some situations last year, I think, that we didn't see a ton of two-man, but there was a couple games where we got two-man and you got a crap play called for that. It's like, hey, what is your answer to that? And it might be, well, I got to try to find an exit angle and then take off and run.
Right.
And I do think that just everything he went through last year, it kind of limited some of his ability to make, maybe whether it's an off-schedule play or using his legs to really attack a defense.
Yeah, so the quarterbacking part of it, the thinking part of it, the
right.
predicting,
having
part
the
of
plan,
yeah,
right? Like I'm saying, like, oh, no, you get pressure, whatever else. Boom, put it on this guy. This is what happened. Don't sit here and, fade off the back foot, and I don't know what to do, and I throw a ball kind of up in the air that's a jump ball or something like that, right? Which led to some maybe more interceptions than they would like. But two things interesting there, right? You don't get don't get the premier look. What are you going to do, right? And that's something we've talked about that a number of times here with quarterbacks. Right, things aren't perfect, but what I learned, early on in my career, listening to John Gruden teach Brad Johnson, and then as I started to take over and become the quarterback and all of that, right? Like John Gruden used to say things like, "Hey, man, I'm giving you all these things, but they could do something different. You just got to make sure you got something in your mind of where you're going to go with that if they do this. We've played the numbers. Here's 100 times. They've done this 98, but there's this one time or two times this year they've done this. And this play call is not for that. It's for the other 98 times, right? So you got to have a plan in case that happens. Where are you going to go with it? Or are you going to be able to see it in time and maybe check out of the play altogether? Whatever. But that is part of being a quarterback, right? Hey, the play is for this, but damn, if my left guard misses the block, where's somewhere I can get the ball out of my hand in a hurry and just go, okay, we averted disaster, right? It's crazy. And that's what the NFL, and that's what's special about a quarterback, because you can think about their defense, my defense, our play, all my checks, all of that. And then there's a whole what-if factor of a bunch of other things list that you got to go, I got to think of all that shit while I'm walking the line of scrimmage too. And that's why quarterbacks get paid $50 million a year, because they can literally think of all that type of stuff in about a tenth of a second and go, okay, I got it, right? And there's that. And then what he talked about, the intent of play. That's another huge thing. And that just tells you he's young. It tells you they've just been calling plays and going, we're going to call a play that'll work, and it'll, even if it doesn't do exactly right, it won't be that bad. They were trying to massage him, bring him along, do all of that. But when you start to hear like, hey, I'm teaching them why I'm calling the play, that's the next level of connection between a coach and a quarterback. To start to really, the quarterback get in the mind of the play caller. And again, not that I played a lot, but I did get a little like that with my time with Gruden when I played. After a few weeks, hey, I've heard it for 2.5 years on the bench and, getting ready to become a starter. Now I'm in the starter. He's saying these things to me directly all the time. He'd call plays on a 1st and 10, and I'd be like, oh, I know what he wants. I got it. He wants me to throw the ball right here and get to 2nd and 2, right? And he gave me one little thing. Hey, if they do this, look for the big play here. But that's it. So I knew what he wanted right away. Hey, if I called this play on 2nd down, I'm kind of thinking this. But if I called this play on 1st down, I kind of have a different mindset. Same play, but I'm thinking something a little different here because of the situation and the down and the distance, right? And that's when an offense can become dangerous. And I think Jordan Love is, again, even though he's a little older in age, he's still learning things here very early on in the process.
Well, that's something, too, that's interesting because then you can report back to Gruden or your coach. It's like, hey, I know you called this play thinking we'd get this, but guess what? They're doing this. And then he learns from you.
Oh,
and
definitely.
Like you've gotten in each other's head.
That's when he knows you're in the trust tree.
Yeah.
When you're walking off the field and all of a sudden you're going, whoa, he's seeing things and talking to me right away. The game's clear. It's slowed down for him.
Yeah.
Right? Those are those phrases you hear.
Yeah.
And that's what that means, right? When the coach goes over to you and he's giving you all these lessons and then the defense does a little something different and he comes over to the quarterback and goes, what'd you see? And the quarterback's like, I don't know what they did there, blah, blah, blah. That's when the coach is like, oh, shit, hey, we're just going to max them up protection the rest of the game and just send 2 guys out in the receiver or 2 guys out in a route. This guy he's not seeing things good today, right? I'm nervous. I don't know what the hell's going to happen, right? Peyton Manning would throw an incompletion and be like, hey, this guy did the Pythagorean theorem. This guy went there, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, Peyton's got it. He's good.
The one thing that helps a quarterback is having good weapons around you.
Yeah.
And receivers around. And they've done something that they did not do for Aaron Rodgers. And they got him a first-round wide receiver, Matthew Gold. Not necessarily a guy that you were super, super high on.
Right.
Flash speed at the combine. Don't know if that was real or not.
Yep.
We have some video of him throwing to Love and Golden at OTAs. I mean, how much do you think? I mean, they've already had a pretty good wide receiver crew if they can stay healthy there.
I definitely. And then with this guy throwing the ball, I mean, we showed the stats first off. He's one of the more aggressive throwers, yards per attempt in all of football, right? And this guy, the one thing I like about this, now, I don't think he plays as fast as what we see, right? Or what we saw at the combine.
Yeah.
Okay? But people do think there's untapped potential there. I don't know what to think of his foot injury and toe injury that he had a little bit, so maybe there's a part there. The one thing I do like about it, though, is he is ready. He's ready for the NFL right now. They needed somebody that can contribute right away this year. They're not bad at receiver. They're good at receiver.
Yeah.
But we don't know where Christian Watson is. The Romeo Doubs thing is always a little odd. So there's that. Jaden Reed's the man. But now you got a guy that can run all routes and potentially has a chance to be an explosive player as far as a down-the-field threat to go along with that. That's what you really like about that. Now, can we go back to those highlights there? Because I want to show the second throw, right? The second throw is what I don't like about him a little bit. So it'll come up again. Is that throw right there. So this one I like, right? I mean, he steps into it. He drives the ball. Perfect. This one, watch this. See? He didn't kind of stayed on that back foot. You know what I'm talking about? Doesn't really drive through
air. If you're on your back foot against air, that seems like a problem.
He's very good at it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you just don't want to make a living on doing this. And I don't think you can control the ball perfectly throwing the ball that way all the time. This is not what you get taught in quarterback school or anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. But still, here, he throws a great ball and all that, but I just wanted to speak to it just so everybody can kind of see it. But, yeah, this guy, he's, again, the want to touch the Hiney phase because he's got the type of talent and the aggressive nature and I think the ice-cold blood in his veins to where he could be a guy that next year is top 7 or 8 in football. I think he has that in him. Along with Kyler Murray, there's just some things that just got to get ironed out and fixed a little bit, and I think they can do that.
2 down, 3 more to go until we reach the Chris Simms top 10 for 2025. We'll take a break. When we come back, one more block to lay here on the Quarterback Pyramid. I got it out there.
Wow, you did good today. Look at you.
We are laying the next block, Chris. It is the Scheme Dream Team.
I like it. Scheme Dream Team.
Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, my guy Jared Goff.
You know it. Scheme Dream. And I don't mean this. This is not an insult. What I mean by this is these are three guys that are
system quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're trying to get me in trouble here. These are three guys that are really kind of offensive coordinators' dreams, or a dream to the scheme, because they're going to do it. They're going to take all the coaching, do it the right way, or run the scheme to a T.
Yeah.
Now, I know people are listening going, wait, Aaron Rodgers? And I'll go, yeah, he loves his scheme. Yeah. He's going to run it to the T in which he was taught it a while ago. But that's also, we're going to hit on some of the negatives about him and why he's got to get better. But still, yes, as far as running things, running an offense, doing the right things for the scheme and doing all that, that's where they're really good. And if they have coach and talent around them and some people to teach them a little tricks, it's like, wow, watch out. They can still do some special stuff out there. So that's what we mean by that.
Yes, and to be clear, we're not ranking the players number by number, although you do have them ranked in your notepad here.
Yeah.
This group of quarterbacks right now is ahead of the two that we just talked about. Two quarterbacks that you said eventually one day could be back in the top 10.
Right.
Now, a reminder, this whole exercise is which quarterbacks would you take for this 1 year? It's not for the next 5 years, and so that does make a little bit of sense. But it also speaks to how highly you think of these guys who are maybe more system or scheme dependent.
Definitely. I'm not always just about, talent. He gets to be that guy. Like, I know everybody kind of pegs me that way. But, yeah, does Kyler Murray and Jordan Love have more potential in them than this group here right now? Yeah, sure. But there's just some things in their game that I can't get behind all the way, that where I would trust these guys first over that. And these guys aren't too shabby still, too, and they can still make some plays. And that's what we're going to talk about here. I like these three guys, and they were surprising. And maybe – two of the three were maybe more surprising than I expected, right? I knew what I was going to get from Jared Goff, so I'm not trying to downplay that.
Correct.
I just kind of knew what I was getting there, right? The other two, Purdy and Rodgers, were a little bit pleasant surprises in some ways, and that's why it's going to be fun talking about them here.
All right, so let's start with Brock Purdy, because I think that would be a little bit of a surprise maybe to some people out there. Of course, he got a lot of money, over, $260 million over the next few years. So for him to say that he is a safer option, maybe doesn't have as much potential as a Kyler Murray or a Jordan Love, after last year seeing him, that way statistically was not a better year for him last year than it was the year before. Right. What'd you see on film from Brock Purdy that kind of changed your mind or made you feel better about it?
Yeah, well, the things you've heard me say this. He might not have ran the scheme to a T like he did the 2 years before that and been quite as perfect that way. But there was more wow and whoa and holy crap, he made something happen in backyard type of plays that opened my eyes this year, right? So that's the big thing I saw with Brock Purdy. And to say that, too, he still ran the scheme. He doesn't have as many plays as I just said with Jordan Love, where it's like, hey, that guy's open, he's late throwing it to him, or off target with a open slot receiver. And if he
doesn't do that.
He doesn't do that nearly as much, right? Yeah. Now, Jordan Love might be able to throw a 40-yard laser down the middle of the field better and all of that too, but we know that comes up only now and then, right? It's the other plays that really make a quarterback on a consistent basis and build the game and put the game where you want it to be. And Brock Purdy still does a lot of those things really well, but just not as good as he did the 2 years before. I think there was a lot of things at play here. One, hey, the positives are he actually tinkered with his motion, and like we said, you could fix a natural thrower. You can fix their mechanics or tinker with their motions as long as they're a natural thrower, right? He did that. His arms and everything weren't nearly as floppy. The delivery was a little quicker. It was a little up here by his ear. I do think it added RPMs on the football a little bit, let alone it was a quicker release. I like that aspect of him. I do think he played less robotic in that, like, okay, wait, this guy's open, that guy's not open, let me get out, let me run, let me scramble, and I'll make a play on the run, or I'll just run for a first down and do that. You saw a nice blend of that. I saw maybe more power throws than the 2 years before that we know they went to the Super Bowl and NFC Championship game. Throws down the middle, in cuts, where you just said, damn, man, that's a nice throw right there, right? But the area where it did take a step back is running the Shanahan scheme perfectly. And I think this is where I was trying to get to when I said there was a lot of things at play here. One, right, Super Bowl hangover, losing that team was affected by that, period. I know it, right? I know them. None of them are going to admit it. But I know them, and I talked to all of them out there, and I could just tell it hovered over them. It was devastating. right? So that did it. The IU contract stuff certainly didn't help their football team. It was a distraction, period. It was annoying to everybody involved in the team, locker room, coaches, front office, whoever. So that didn't help itself out either. And I think between that and then Brock Purdy knowing this is a contract year and I got a chance to get paid, I think there was times where maybe he tried to do too much, right? That's what I would say. Or felt the burden of like, I got to jumpstart us here. Let me get us going. We haven't had a big play. I'm going to make it happen.
If I want this money, I got to
start showing it. Everybody keeps telling me I don't do the superstar things that all the other guys do, so I need to start doing those, right? And he made comments before last year saying he wanted to make more of those type of plays, right? Also within that, sometimes when you play and you start to get good and you have those things, you overthink things, right? You overthink things. Wait, we just completed this one, the same play 7 plays ago. It's not going to be open again. These guys aren't that dumb. And then you don't give it a chance, and you go back to the sideline and you go, shit, I mean, David, it was open again.
They were that
dumb, right? And I missed it. And you know, we got a 3-yard gain instead of a 25-yard gain. Or here's an instance that jumped out to me in my brain. I believe it was the Rams game late in the year. Right? And as I told you, I try to watch a few good, a few bad.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it's the Rams game. The Rams game late in the year, he had a number of plays in that game where they ran like double slants on one side. First time he has it, inside slant's open. He doesn't throw it. He throws to the outside slant, ball batted down. I'm sure they go over to the sideline and they go, hey, your first read was open. Why the didn't you throw it? Blah, blah, blah. Right? Next time they come out, next series, I think they get a first down. A few plays go later. They call a similar thing. Mm-hmm. This time, okay, here comes the inside slant. He forces it to the inside slant. He's covered this time. The outside slant's wide open, right? Like, just read the play. Don't what do I want to say? Predetermined, thank you, is the word I was going to say. Don't predetermine. Don't think I thought this guy would do that because he thought he was going to do that, right? That I feel like there was a little of that going on with him this year. Just putting the pressure on himself, maybe not just going with, wait, Shanahan said if this guy goes here, I throw there. If he goes there, I throw here, right? I think he just read into stuff. And you can get in your own head that way. And you can get in your own head when you start to feel comfortable and you know the offense. I honestly took a step back my year I hurt my spleen because I think I tried to go like next level. Like, I'm going to go to the next part of this play and show Gruden how awesome I am. And there's no way this will be open again. I just hit Joey Galway on this. And it's just like, no, I f***ed up the whole play by my stupid thoughts. Just do what you were taught. It's not that complicated. Mm-hmm. Throw to the open guy. 1, 2, 3, boom. And I think there was a little bit of that lost with him this year. And I believe I had something we have a comment because we talked about it last week. I had said it to you on the show, and then he made a comment like not long after it.
Okay, all right. Well, because he was asked, is there something you were trying to improve this offseason? And this is what he said.
Man, just fundamentals in general, and I know it sounds, cheesy or whatnot, but just watching the film and stuff, like my footwork and being on point and not getting too comfortable within a situation or game. I actually have gone back and watched a lot of my rookie tape, and when I first got in, how I was on it, and all I knew was what they coached me, my footwork, and where my eyes need to be. And so sort of sinking back to those fundamentals and applying that to OTAs and the field work every single day, and having that fire in me every single rep.
Man, that's a tough thing to admit and to see.
Phenomenal.
As a rookie, you want to believe that every year we get a little bit better and we learn from our previous mistakes. But he's saying, no, there's some things I was doing as a rookie that were better than things I did last year.
Yeah. Because as you get you think you go next level.
Yeah.
And then you just go, wait, why did I make this so complicated? I had all this success my rookie year. I just listened to exactly what my coach said and did exactly what he said, and it all worked out good, right? And I think when then you get comfortable with things, you can get greedy. You feel like I got to be the leader to jumpstart things like we talked about. I think all of that. I think you think about other things like, hey, my eyes are supposed to be here, but wait, I noticed this guy was playing a little weird over here the last time we ran this play. Let me peek over there to make sure he doesn't do something weird again, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, well, why? That had nothing to do with it. Just keep your eyes where you said. The guy was open. There was 2 completions over here. But instead, your mind was off on this other little tangent of oh, I think I can do this because I saw this guy do this before, right?
Trying to take the next step.
Right. It's exactly. It's like trying to do the right thing, but trying too hard, and you're actually doing the wrong thing because you're trying too hard, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a very hard thing, and it's almost hard for me to explain it, but I've been there. And the thing I like about him, and I think what he's alluding to too, and we've talked about with other guys, he does have incredible feel and ability to see a defense and what they did wrong and go after it like right away. I mean, I've heard Kyle Shanahan tell me that right away. Like he'll tell me, he sees things sometimes. I'm like, I don't even know how the he saw that, right? So he's got that like sixth sense about him. He has a great way, and this is one of the reasons I liked his game too last year, of like he'll hang in the pocket. He does have a good feel every now and then and going like, wait, I know this is my first read and I could throw the 5-yard completion, but this coverage, like George Kittle, Shanahan's giving me alerts. Like if they do this coverage, George Kittle might be open down the middle for a 30-yard gain. And he has great feel and recognizes that stuff to go, wait, I know I should throw the 5-yard under route over here, but this is the one coverage where, it could happen. So he did better in that stuff than I would say in years before. But it's getting back to basics, right? And playing it by the book more, I think is what he's saying. And just finding that fine line of I play it by the book and, okay, the book's closed here. I got to scribble on a notebook here and make something happen. And I don't care who you are. We've heard Patrick Mahomes go through these type of issues after winning Super Bowls, right? I mean, Tom Brady's gone through those issues. Everybody goes through these little issues, and I think he'll come back this year a better quarterback.
We do have some video of Brock Purdy at OTAs, and you mentioned that he has changed his mechanics a little bit. Maybe we're able to identify it on the film here.
Right. I mean, he's tough. Plays in the pocket, never makes excuses. Yes, the motion is not nearly as floppy and as long as it was early on in his career. And the other thing you're starting to see here, too, with this throwing motion, watch the right arm, how it comes across his body more now, right? Back in the old days, or not the old days, but 2 years ago, most of his throws, you would have saw that right arm go down towards his crotch or his left pocket, right?
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
Now you're seeing like, wait, I got to be quicker, and if I want to drive the ball with more authority, my arm's got to go across more instead of up and down. We talk about Dak Prescott and his throwing ability. His motion's too vertical. It doesn't lend himself to driving the ball down the field. So the 49ers got their guy. They paid him like he's their guy. They want him to be the guy. He's the leader. They believe it's the best quarterback the 49ers have had in quite some time. I could get behind all of that.
Yeah.
And now they just got to go out there and play some football, and he's got to shut people like me up.
Yeah, I mean, the weapons are going to be a little bit of a question, right? Brandon Ayuk coming back from injury.
Right.
No more Deebo Samuel.
Nope.
You got Ricky Pearsall, who I think dinged up a little bit already in OTAs. Juwan Jennings is there. So that will be a little bit of a question. What do you think? What do you think the loss of Deebo does for him?
Yeah, but Deebo was
not Deebo.
Well,
I didn't think
he was not.
Year. I didn't think he
was not the same.
It's not like they're losing
years.
elite Deebo.
They're not losing elite Deebo. What they're losing is just a guy that is a weapon that you got to worry about, and a guy that's like quarterbacks love because it's like, oh wait, I could throw a screen out here and get a completion and feel good, and then he can run for 15 or 20, and I get a good stat off it. He helps your offense that way. But no, I don't think it's a game breaker. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall's dealing with that hamstring injury. Wide receivers is definitely a question. I don't think you're wrong in saying that. And who's going to show up and be a true person they can depend on. And that's probably where I bet you early on in the year they depend on George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey more in the pass game than maybe the receivers necessarily as they kind of figure out their way in that department.
One negative about Purdy is that Pete notes here in the rundown, since 2022, he has 7 touchdown passes and an NFL high 15 interceptions when tied or trailing in the second half or overtime. His passer rating is dead last in the NFL, which is crazy for a guy who has a career passer rating of 104.9, which is the highest in NFL history.
I know.
But late in games that are close, he has not been good.
The 49ers have always kind of been a front-running team.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that to be funny or any of that. That's kind of what they are. If there was a flaw with the 49ers and the Shannon, if I had to say the thing that the Shanahan offense, I would go, hey, friend, if there's one. The drop-back passing offense, I do think could use some new wrinkles, some new things that way, right? I don't come away with it always as wow as everything else in their offense, right?
That is most necessary when you're down late.
Exactly. And we've seen this with other quarterbacks they've had, too, that there's not necessarily been great in those departments.
Yeah.
Plus, I think when you add on this aspect, too, and we just talked about the guy. When you have a guy like Deebo Samuel who's known around football to not be able to separate versus man coverage and do that, that's not a great help, right? And then, yeah, you're a young quarterback, right, who's still learning football and adjusting to, like, their physical ability and wanting to throw the ball with a little more force and make explosive plays and not maybe perfect in that department. I think it can lead to those numbers you're talking about there.
DraftKings has the current odds to win the NFC West. We've talked about Kyler Murray. We've now talked about Brock Purdy, starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. So the win total for the 49ers, 10.5. They are plus 150, so the favorite. But the Rams not far behind there, plus 195. So you are still surprised. I remember early in the year, you said they don't even have a full roster.
Right.
Yeah, and everyone's got them as the third favorite to win the Super Bowl. They can't even play a football game right now. You're still as surprised seeing what they've done this offseason?
I mean, they have, from that point between, a few things in free agency and what they did in the draft, they've definitely changed my mind to a degree.
Yeah.
Would I bet on them to win the NFC West? No. No, I would not. No, I would not. The Rams would be the team I would go with. And that's what I don't even understand it. I want to go, what?
Yeah.
I mean, the Rams got Devontae Adams. Their defense was young and only getting better. The offense looks like, watch out. It is a little surprising to me, but this is a 49er team that I do think will be re-energized, rejuvenated, will enjoy being disrespected by some people, not putting them in the playoffs or the Super Bowl window or whatever else that way. I've liked a lot of the moves they've done. I told you I love their draft. I really do. But, yeah, I'm expecting the Rams to still be that team.
One thing in the 49ers' favor is they do have the easiest schedule in the NFL by far.
Yeah, we talked about that a
little.
little, right? It's early on in the season. They can at least gain some confidence, maybe play some games and some teams to get that false confidence we talk about sometimes. Like, hey, we're actually pretty good here. Or at least get their feet underneath them with a bunch of new players and stuff like that to where – you can get to week 5 against the Rams, and they could be 3-1, 4-0. I mean, yeah, I have no problem sitting here right now and telling you, all right, it's the Seahawks, the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Jaguars. They are better than all those teams on paper, every one of them. Now, not by a ton with the Seahawks. That'll be a tough game and what they do there. But, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they were 4-0 going to that Thursday night game against the Rams on October 2nd.
I mean, we will learn a lot with that Seahawks game, that Cardinals game as well early on in the year for the 49ers. DraftKings Sportsbook is your home for live betting. New customers can bet $5, get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Just download the app and use the promo code UNBUTTONED when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
So now, the Scheme Dream Team, a man who runs his own scheme, marches to his own drummer. That is Aaron Rodgers, who I think is probably higher on your list. We all know your love of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
You've loved him for a long time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But he's not been the same the last couple years. Obviously, with the injured year, and then last year, maybe at the end of the year, started to turn it on. But he's higher than I would have thought he would be for you, even knowing your love. And as Pete said, he doesn't even have a job right now, and he is this high up in the Chris Simms pyramid.
And maybe he won't have a job. I don't know. Maybe we'll see where this goes. As I said before, these were some of the pleasant surprises. It was better than I expected. Now, is it perfect? No. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, is he the guy that I used to sing about and go, oh, my gosh, I don't know. He might be the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my life, right? In his prime, I'd still argue it's might be the greatest I've ever seen. It's that special. He was about as capable of carrying a team by himself as I saw anybody ever and could do it always. He's in the process of adjusting, but let's not get it messed up. My man can still throw the ball with the best of them. It's still a top 10 arm in the NFL, maybe even higher than that. It is. His release is still as quick as it gets in the league. His ability to pinpoint short to intermediate throws is still as good as anybody in football. And off of weird platforms, not being protected all that well with the New York Jets and all of that, right? And like what you said, when we got to the end of the year, it's like we got to November, and I feel like I was in his head. Like he was like, man, Simms is saying I'm not throwing the ball down the field and hanging in the pocket. Simms is saying they're not going to go anywhere playing that way in the NFL. I better listen to Simms. I think that's what he was saying, legitimately, right? but that's what we saw at the end of the year, and I think what you're alluding to a little bit is we saw a little different guy than the last few years who I've poo-pooed a little, right? And I still don't know if it's perfect, but it's better, and it shows me there's hope, okay? Because the way he played at the end of Green Bay and then the Jets early in the year last year, you saw me in the viewing room, or we talked here on the podcast. Oh, 3-yard pass here. Oh, 3-yard pass here. Oh, check. I want to throw a 1-yard throw here. That's not doing shit. No team, no defense is scared of that in football. It's not enough pressure. And he changed that at the end of the year. And I think he also started to realize he changed in that, and this was part of why he dropped last year. I said, I don't think he knows how he's going to have to play yet. He's not going to be able to play the same way Aaron Rodgers used to play. He's going to have to readjust. Does he know how he's going to play? And I would say the first 7-8 weeks, he was still trying to be old Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to hop around and do this stuff. And I feel like at the end of the year, he started to go, I can't do that stuff anymore. I got to have a plan in my head. Am I going to throw the ball down the field? And if not, where am I going to get the ball out of my hands? But I'm not going to be able to hop around and avoid time and do a cartwheel and then throw a 30-yard laser like I did in my prime, right? And then that was encouraging to me. That really was. So, yes, I'm hoping we've turned a corner here and going to Pittsburgh with the Arthur Smith offense, which is a little bit more aggressive throwing the ball down the field than what Aaron Rodgers has shown us and done. I hope that comes out on him. And if it does, then they could be dangerous in Pittsburgh and he can be dangerous.
So we do have some video of him working out with new Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver number 4, DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a done deal. Yeah, you would put the percent chance of this happening at, what, 90%?
Yes, I would think.
Because it's either this or what, retirement?
I would think it's above that. I think the Steelers thought that he might show up here right around this time and minicamp.
Haven't they requested that by now?
It's looking like it's not going to happen to training camp, right? And I've heard a number of things. I don't have a concrete answer here to tell you or anything like that, but I just think it would be odd to have a throwing session at UCLA with another team's quarterback and, oh, yeah, I'm not even going to play quarterback in the NFL this year, right? I mean, come on. We know. He's going to Pittsburgh. It's just he's doing it on his own time frame. He's told people he's got some personal things. I'm sure he wants to work out and keep training the way he wants to train. So we'll see where it goes. I would not be shocked if he already has their playbook. He already knows kind of some of the things that are involved with their football team. And if you listen to anybody that's ever been around him, they will tell you that he is arguably the smartest guy they've ever been around.
Really?
Right? Ask Jason Garrett the next time you see him in the building. Okay. Ask him about his Pro Bowl story, right? His Pro Bowl story, he's coaching Aaron Rodgers in his prime. It's the first day of practice. He starts calling a play. And Rodgers is walking away. He won't finish it. And he's like, hey. And he's like, yeah, I know, blah, 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 blah. And he spits the playback. Jason Garrett was like, what? Like, damn. And he said, the first part of practice, he was like, Aaron Rodgers is like, I've already coached him. He knew all the plays. He knew the rules. He was all over it, right? So that's what kind of brain you're dealing with, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And that can frustrate people and make people love him all at the same time. But I do think he adjusted to where his body is, the fact that he can't run around, and this new style of play towards the end of the year, and I'm hoping that filters over into this year so we could see one more awesome Aaron Rodgers, which I root for. I really do.
Well, number one, I will not ask Jason Garrett for that story because he just told it. He just stole his story and told it on the podcast.
He might tell it a cooler way.
That's true. It might be different. I was like, that's not how Simms tells it. And number two, so we've already laid the block that contains Justin Fields, the New York Jets starting quarterback. That was quite some time ago, maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You got Aaron Rodgers here. Of course, a lot goes into a new regime, and what Aaron Rodgers brings is not just quarterback, it's also a little bit of a circus. But in looking at the quarterback play and looking at the film again, did the Jets make the wrong call and letting Aaron Rodgers go?
It's more than just play, right?
Yeah.
And that's like what you're saying. There's more about, hey, the future, what we're trying to install here, we're new coaches, we're a new GM. Do we want to coach do you want a quarterback coaching us and telling us how he wants things done and doing all that? And that's the impression we make to our team. Our first impression is, hey, we're here. We're all going to listen to the quarterback just like the last regime. Yeah. He's going to tell us all what to do and check to the offense and tell us who he wants to throw the football, and he wants to play his style. It's nothing like we want to play, but we're going to listen to him. That's where I think it wasn't the right situation. Yeah. The stars didn't align the right way. So I think they made the right choice by Justin Fields.
Yes, but if it was only about quarterbacking play.
I'm taking Aaron Rodgers.
You're taking Aaron
Definitely.
Rodgers.
There's too many things we've discussed with Justin Fields that we got to see get better. Whether it's the throwing, getting off of reads, going through reads better, all that type of stuff. It's just not where you want it to be yet. I don't have any of those questions with Aaron Rodgers. None of them at all. And Aaron Rodgers, the decision-making is still pretty good. It's a hair conservative. That's the only problem. But at the end of the year, when they were dangerous and fun to watch a little bit, it wasn't all that conservative. You take away the Bills game late in the year, that was the one stinker they laid. Everything else, in the month of December and all that was like, oh, damn, this is kind of fun. Rodgers is throwing lasers around the field. He's not just checking it down and throwing 2-yard routes. He's throwing howitzers and bombs, and that was what's cool. I mean, I don't know what his total numbers would have been from late November to December there, but I bet you they were pretty good and probably look different than any other stat number he's put up in the last 3 years as far as yards per attempt and completion, and maybe the completion percentage was lower, right, and stuff like that. Maybe an interception or two more because we're being aggressive and we're trying to win the game and not playing not to lose the game, right? That's where I was really encouraged with watching Rodgers.
Well, this is what we know. If Aaron Rodgers plays for the Steelers, they will barely make the playoffs and be eliminated early on. If he does not play for the Steelers, they will barely make the playoffs and be eliminated early on. So it really
that's what there's Steeler fans in the area, and I keep telling them all the time, right? Because they're like, "Oh, do we really want Rodgers? He's going to mess up our locker room." I don't like that. Aaron Rodgers never messes up a locker room. This is like the Odell Beckham bullshit I hear all the time. Because I want to go, wait, I've been in every locker room Odell Beckham Jr.'s been in, and everybody loves him. But yet he's got a stigma because he said something about the Giants and Eli Manning. Mm-hmm. So nobody will ever get over that, right? And it's like, no, it's just not the case. He's the most loved guy on every team he was on, right? Aaron Rodgers, the Jets almost had a mutiny when they released him, the players. They loved him. Mm-hmm. They loved him. A lot of guys in Green Bay did too. Yeah, he was trying to win and probably an asshole to a few people, like a lot of franchise quarterbacks have been, and there's a few that are disgruntled. But for the most part, it's love there too. I don't think he's going to ruin the locker room. The thing where people are getting confused is you don't want him to ruin the culture of your team or how your offense wants to play. That's what I worry about. If you want, hey, we're the Steelers and we want to play this way, you got to, I always keep saying, Bruce Arians him. That's my new phrase. Because Bruce got Tom Brady to change. Tom Brady's last year in New England was not good. He didn't help them win one game. He was conservative. He did nothing. That was part of the reason they let it go. They were like, he's not that special anymore. Bruce Arians got there, started making fun of him for not throwing the ball down the field and taking people that were wide open that would have won the game. Brady started to feel the heat. He's like, damn, he's talking to the media about it. He's talking to everybody in Tampa about it and talking crap about me. I better start stepping up. And that's where that's where you got to worry if you're a Steeler fan. But as I tell all the Steeler fans who come up to me and go, do I want him? I go, yes, you want him. You're not going anywhere with Mason Rudolph. I got mad respect for Mason Rudolph and how he's handled himself and his career and all that. But, yeah, maybe you get to the playoffs and lose in the first round. You get Aaron Rodgers, you got the potential to make some moves, make some waves in the playoffs, and that's where you should want him if you're a Steelers fan.
A guy who you were surprised with, pleasantly surprised when you watched the film on him, pleasantly surprised on Brock Purdy. You will not say the same about my guy, Jared Goff, who is also in this tier, because you knew what you were going to get with Jared Goff. Will you say this at least?
Yeah.
Was he number 11 in your rankings just outside the top 10?
100%.
Number 11, okay.
So, I mean, he was a tough one to where, 9, 10, 11, he was in the running there. Okay? He was. I mean, Jared Goff, arguably the toughest pocket passer in all of football in the NFL. That's what I would say. That would be my number one thing. And along with being the the toughest pocket passer, also one of the most aggressive, fearless decision makers there are in the NFL too. That's why I love watching Jared Goff. I don't sit there necessarily and wax poetically and go, oh, look at his release. Oh, look at that rifle spiral, right? He doesn't throw spirals all the time, right? Yeah. That's not what it is. It's not always sexy that way. But you can't deny the results. You can't do that. And, yeah, the aggressive nature came back to bite him in the ass a little bit in the playoff game. It was an organizational aggressive came back to bite them all in the ass. That's my one issue with the Lions, as you know.
That and the 3,500 injuries on the defense.
Well, that hurt him, right. But, you know, whether it was not going up 17 points in the NFC Championship game, Goff being a hair aggressive, Ben Johnson being a hair aggressive, calling reverse passes with Jameson Williams, right? That, to me, is what led to the demise of the Commanders game, right? And that just came back to bite them in the ass. And along with, like you're saying, they were fighting an uphill battle with all those injuries. It was tough. They knew the offense had to keep pace and score points, I think, to win games. I think they knew by the second drive of that Washington game, they were like, we're not going to stop them today. Yep. We're going to have to score a lot, right? That leads you to do things that are uncomfortable at times. But Jared Goff, I mean, it's an unbelievably aggressive decision maker who's fearless in throwing the ball into tight windows. And then along with that, he's famous for what? Consecutive throws without interceptions or not throwing interceptions. And he's only thrown this many interceptions in the last, 19 months and all of that. That's pretty remarkable when you get down to it for the way they play and what they ask him to do. They're not dink and dunk by any stretch of the imagination, as you know. I mean, when you think about the Lions right now, I'm thinking Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle for 25. Yep. I'm thinking Jameson Williams on a post route for 45. And I'm thinking, oh, their check down is Laporta for a 10-yard gain, right? And that's not easy to play quarterback that way. I respect that and his ability to hang in the pocket. And nobody makes more completions about to get their ass whooped than Jared Goff in the NFL. And that's what I love about watching Jared Goff.
It'll be interesting to see exactly what changes here. We do have some exmo of a spiral for him. You say he doesn't throw a spiral. We may have some
We got some? I like it.
He has developed a spiral this year. So I think we do have Jared Goff at OTAs here. The Lions just had those. Maybe just wrapping up.
Here it goes.
Now.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
See, there's your that was Electron, I think. That might have been Electron.
Oh yeah, my guy.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, listen, his motion's a little longer.
Yeah.
This is a spiral, though. You're right about that. It is a spiral. But you can see it doesn't spin real hard, right?
No,
you know what I mean?
RPMs.
Yeah,
right.
You can see, you see other quarterbacks that throw spirals like this. The ball probably spins twice as much.
Yeah.
But here's Laporta dropping it in.
Oh,
but again, this is what I'm talking about. Like what a throw, even in practice.
Yeah.
With pretty tight coverage, and he doesn't flinch. He's just like, he's open by a foot. Shoo, throws it. And it's pretty remarkable, too, when you talk about 8.6 yards per attempt, 4,600 yards, 4,600 yards on the ball, and 72% completion percentage.
Yeah.
Like we just talked about. It's not dink and dunk. Yeah. It's not at all. So that just speaks to what he does and how he plays. And, the interceptions were a little up this year. He had a few bad games, right?
Yeah, 8 of his 15 interceptions last year came in two games. 5
right?
on Sunday night, which they came back and won. And then the divisional loss versus Washington.
Yeah,
which they did
so
not
again, it's amazing the way he's playing, and it's amazing where I was going to go with that too. That he's playing that way this day and age, 2025, and he doesn't really move all that well, right?
Yeah.
But he's very good at sliding in the pocket the right way and doing that. He's squashed the whole he doesn't throw good when the pocket's collapsing or he doesn't throw good in the elements. That's all over, right? We don't have any of those questions about Jared Goff anymore. At least I don't. I've seen enough evidence to know, no, he's fine there. They've changed him. They've changed his mentality. They've changed his aura. They've given him confidence now to where, he thinks he's the man and he's going to lead that whole city to a Super Bowl. And I love that about him, and I think the Lions fans love that about him as well.
So the question will be, with Ben Johnson gone now, John Morton's come over there. He was a former assistant, so he's been around him before, so he's not an unfamiliar face.
Right.
But they say they're going to keep a lot of the same stuff with little tweaks
so.
along the edges. John bring what he brings, but I mean that's the goal, right? When you have an offense that's that good, of course you don't want to change a whole lot.
Yeah.
Do you think that's in reality? Are they going to be able to do that?
Yeah, they don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No.
I think they can do it to a certain extent. You know, the rest is going to be like, we got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson is who he is because he's special. And Ben Johnson, I promise you, was not having all the coaches in his room going, hey, guys, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing that. This is why. These guys know that these other guys might be moving. I might be moving. They're not going to give them every trick of why I package this play with that player. Why do I call this play in this formation and then follow it up with that play or whatever. Those are things that are a skill and why certain guys are better at it than others, right? They know how to call plays in sequence the right play. They know to call a play in a certain moment just because they got a gut feeling or through their studies. That's a skill in itself, right? They know how to come up with plays during the week where you'd go, this isn't a real play, but I trust my ability to make it real. And nobody's doing this, and we're going to make it real this week. And now everybody's going to run it in football, and it's going to be a real play by the end of the season, right? I mean, like stumble bum and stuff like that. So, yeah, Johnny Morton's going to have to find his way. Don't reinvent the wheel. Do what you've been doing. I'm sure he'll have a few wrinkles. And then, yeah, can he tie it all together? I would say so. And I think Dan Campbell has a pretty good feel for how this offense works as well. So I don't think Detroit's going anywhere. They might have to work out a few kinks. Early, tough schedule.
Oh, it's
right?
brutal schedule.
Brutal
all the
schedule.
way through.
They could be one of those years where they actually have a worse record and they still end up in the NFC Championship game. I wouldn't be shocked.
I think it's almost guaranteed they'll have a worse record than last year. I mean, 15-2. So yeah. And it's like even if Ben Johnson did teach everything he knows to the guys around, I mean, the game's changing so much that you're going to have to develop new thoughts and new ideas and new creativity as you go.
Exactly right.
Not there
you got to
anymore,
stay ahead of the game. Yeah, you want to stay with what you do good and do that, but you got to have a few new wrinkles and a new way to attack and do stuff like that. So we'll see. Like we talked about, when the schedules came out, at the Packers are going to be chomping at the bit. The Packers have been owned by your Detroit Lions. It's at home. They're going to want to make a statement about the NFC North in week 1. The Bears and Ben Johnson come into town in week 2. That's scary just because of the knowledge that he has of you. And he's going to have something special for you as far as a trick play or something crazy to try to screw you over. And then you get after that. I know we got the Browns week 4, but the Ravens week 3, the Bengals week 5, the Chiefs week 6, the Bucks week 7, bye week, and then Vikings, Commanders, Eagles. I mean, almost every team we talk about there, except for the Browns and the Bears, are in a Super Bowl window. Not like, oh, they're a playoff team. I want to go, they're borderline Super Bowl type of teams.
Yeah.
So that's where it is going to be a little different for this Lions team this year.
The two easiest weeks they have, I think, are week 12, Giants, and then the bye week, week 8.
Right.
In that order.
Right.
I think
You're funny. You're an asshole. We're going to be a fighter this year.
Okay, all right.
I'm not saying we're going to the playoffs, but we will not be just like you can roll over us and just chalk up a W against us. That's what I will say.
I'll pass that on.
All right.
All right, so we have done it. We've made it to the top 10.
Yep.
We are not getting into the top 10 in this podcast, but we'll give a little preview. We'll take a break. We'll come back. A preview of the top 10 in Chris's quarterback countdown. Brick by brick, the aliens got to work today, continued the pyramid. That was last week. That was Monday. And then there you go. Want to touch the Hiney. They're close to the top 10. Scheme Dream, also close to the top 10. Even closer for my guy Jared Goff at number 11.
We got to expand this pyramid.
You don't think we have enough room?
Well, I mean, right now it just looks like we got 2 more tiers left there. And what if there's 3 tiers? I don't know. What if what if there has to be 4 tiers? What if I break the top 10 to go like number 9 and 10 are on this tier?
Yeah.
Number 6, 7, and 8 are on this tier.
Exactly. I agree.
Right? Then it just gets, I don't know. What are we going to, we have to put like a little decoration on top of the damn pyramid too?
Just build up another little mini triangle on top of the triangle.
Or we did say it was going to be the top button, right? Like maybe we just put a button on there.
That's true. We
can
get
with
creative.
A name on there, right?
Yeah, Kristen will get creative in any way where she does not have to redo the entire pyramid. So that will definitely happen. So we got the pictures of the guys that we talked about today in case you missed the early part of the podcast, which is actually impossible in a podcast. You can't miss, where you're like, I showed up too late, because you can just rewind, right?
Yeah, I would think so, yes.
So I don't know, in case you just
unless
didn't
you're
want to listen.
watching on Peacock, right?
Well, that's true.
That's where you can miss the early part of the podcast.
If you're watching on Peacock and miss, where were you, first of all?
Right.
That's unforgivable.
Right.
You know when this starts every week.
Yeah.
But here are the names, here are the guys, here are the faces. And now we are in to the top 10.
Jordan Love and Kyler Murray are going to see that and be like, what? I want to touch the Hiney? What the hell is this guy talking about?
Yeah, not that I know.
This is weird that they're doing this to me.
How did he know? We got the top 10. We know who the top 10 are going to be right now.
Yeah.
And we also know where you ranked them last year. And so these are significant jumps for a couple of guys. Jaden Daniels for one. Maybe that's not that surprising. But the fact that Baker Mayfield now is back in your top 10, that's pretty big news.
It is pretty big news. But you played the way he has the last 2 years. And, I mean, last year, he was phenomenal. Godwin goes down. Evans was not quite as awesome as he's been in years past. Baker Mayfield made a number of big-time plays. He definitely deserves to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't think the top 10 is that crazy here.
I guess Jaden Daniels is still surprising, though. I mean,
to make that jump.
Yeah,
right.
that you still trust him, because this is not like who will you have again for the next 10 years. Of course, Jaden Daniels would be one of the guys. Who would you have for next year?
I know.
You'd still have him over Kyler Murray and Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers and my guy Jared Goff.
Because in a lot of ways, I mean, he plays a mature game. He plays sometimes a more mature game that I would tell you Jordan Love and Kyler Murray play. That's what's amazing about him. That's what I was. But Jaden Daniels, with all the talent he has, I think one thing I came back with all the time that we would talk about in the podcast during the season is just I'm amazed about the machine he is. Mm-hmm. The machine he is throwing the football. The machine he is making the decisions. He never was greedy or wanted more. He just, to Brock Purdy, played it by the book, went back to the basics, right? Mm-hmm. He really did that. Very mature brand of football for sure. But I don't think anybody's going to surprise with the names that are in the top 10 here. They might be a little surprised with the order and how it goes and all of that. I think everybody knows who the top 4 are. But what is that order of the top 4? Right? That's an interesting part here. We're going to get
even
into
you
this
don't
year.
know.
I do know.
Okay.
I do know. But this is where it's an interesting, debate, conversation, and when we get to the top 10, that's when we really piss people off here. So we're going to do a lot of that.
Which is what
next
we like
week.
to do. It's what we do on this
Right.
podcast. We're going to have 2 coming up. So on Monday, we're going to release 10 through 6.
Right.
And then we have one coming out on Tuesday where we release the top 5. And then on Wednesday, we do an AMA, I would assume.
Yeah, right. We're just going to talk about
take all the
people
crap.
Like, how stupid are you? Why did you put him at 8 instead of 7?
Which is why we're releasing one on Tuesday, so that we can get all that hate before you go on hiatus.
Good. I want to make sure I get it all in.
Yeah.
But that'll be good. And I look forward to it. This is always the most exciting time. These are the best quarterbacks in the sport. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to talk about them. There's a lot of nuance. And it's not easy. It's not. Again, I sit here and I've told people this a lot. Like we're in an era right now where the quarterbacks are special. They're special. They really are. Some of the guys we talked about today, some of the guys we talked about last week, I mean, there's still a lot of damn good ones. There's not a quarterback problem in the NFL. There's still an offensive coordinator problem. I will stand by that. There is. There's more good quarterbacks to go around than there is offensive coordinators and play callers. But yeah, this is we got some Hall of Famers here. And as you know, you've heard me say, Lamar, Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, they're first ballot Hall of Famers, special. I know a lot of people need the hardware and he's got to win a Super Bowl or do that. I'm just telling you what I see on the field week to week. Right. It rivals the greatest of all time. We're in an era here of John Elway, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, right? Troy Aikman, whatever. Joe Montana, right? The mid-'80s of going, damn, there's 7 or 8 teams that you just go, they're Hall of Famers at quarterback. This is amazing. Right? I mean, we're in an era right now where it's that type of guy. It's that special. I don't know if there's really ever been an era actually where the top 4 are this good. I'm dead serious.
Sure.
Top 4, that good, first ballot, upper tier of the Hall of Fame with Deion Sanders. That's where I look at them. Maybe you could get into Brady, Manning, Drew Brees and Favre there, that little overlap in the early 2000s, right? 2005, 2006. Maybe you could get into that.
4, slam dunk, separated. Well,
Steve Young, Aikman, Favre, that group in the early 90s. Maybe you could throw into that with Jim Kelly. Maybe you could throw into that crew there. But my point is, I think what you're hearing is just it's special.
Well, yeah.
And they're in the conversation of like as good a 4 as I've ever seen in the league at one time as ever before. They're in the discussion.
And to your point too, that there's not a quarterback problem in the NFL. I mean, even you go down to 5 there from last year, Matthew Stafford. You can make the case that he's a Hall of Fame.
He's going to the
quarterback.
Hall of Fame.
I mean, and some of these quarterbacks have Hall of Fame potential. If all things fall in the
exactly
Justin
right.
Herbert is as talented as they come, and
that's right.
Stroud and Hurts already with a Super Bowl,
Right,
and
exactly
Jane Daniels. Who knows what's yet to come there?
100%.
A lot of good quarterbacks with
a lot of good
potential.
quarterbacks. Definitely was good day. We got a lot of stuff done today.
I agree.
I feel better. I feel like I went to a therapy session.
We're ready to go. We can keep going on. We
well,
don't
I
even
always
need to take
stress
the
out
hiatus.
that I want to make sure I explain things the right way, hit all the points.
We make sure you do that. We hold you accountable.
Thank you.
Here.
I appreciate
we
you doing
pry
that.
it out of you if we have to.
I appreciate that. All right, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe out there. We're going to have some good weather here in the Northeast. I'm actually excited to go outside and enjoy the world a little bit. That's the first weekend we've been able to do that forever. You know where to find us. Keep sending the questions. All right, we're going to answer them all next week. Subscribe, rate, review. Ahmed Fareed, thanks as always for wearing a shirt that matches your gray hair.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. No, but seriously, thanks for driving the ship with your gross energy drink over
It's a
there.
new kind.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
You know where. You know where to find us. All right, everybody. Be good. Be safe. Peace out, homies. Clap it up.
Clap it up.
Yo, homies, what's up? Thanks for watching Chris Simms Unbuttoned. And just because the weather's warm doesn't mean football ain't still on our brains right here.
We are still working, so smash that subscribe button. We got all the training camp news, preseason news, everything up until kickoff night.
Thanks for watching. And again, remember to hit that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.